Well, Shabbat Shalom. I just want to welcome everyone to the Sabbath-day conference call. And this is Barbara serving as your host today. And today Zahn is here as your co-host. And our title today is, Who is the God of Time? Kronos, Saturn, is the pagan god of time. The Greek Kronos and the Roman Saturn were the same god. As god of the harvest, he was typically represented as holding his scythe. Kronos, Saturn, was the god of time. As well, and as such, he was also frequently showing holding babies. Saturn's chief holiday was Saturnalia. And here's a quote from the Britannica.
Kronos, also spelled Kronos or Kronos, in ancient Greek religion, male deity who was worshipped by the pre-Hellenic population of Greece, but probably was not widely worshipped by the Greeks themselves. He was later identified with the Roman god Saturn. He was depicted as an old man holding an implement, probably originally a sickle.
Okay, who is Saturn? Well, he was Saturn to the Romans. He was Kronos or Kronos to the Greeks. To the Egyptians, he was alternately Krons and Osiris. The Babylonians named him Ninus. To the Assyrians, he was Baal or Belus. The Phoenicians, he was in the Carthaginians, and Canaanites referred to Saturn as Baal. The person from whom these various legends extend is none other than Nimrod, that mighty hunter against Yahweh. Rome itself was originally the city of Saturn. So under differing names, Nimrod, Saturn, appeared in all ancient idolatry.
Saturn, Kronos, the god of time. Ancient priests told the superstitious people that the sun was dying and must be propitiated with costly sacrifices. Saturn, as the god of time, was implored to continue time. The people were thus compelled to offer the things most precious to them, their children, in order to prolong time. Saturn, god of time and god of harvest, reaped his harvest of souls in the burned bodies of these young children. In mythology, Kronos ate his own children. Therefore, the proper sacrifice with which to appease Kronos would, of course, be children.
Victim every year, the child victim is Baby New Year. So the imagery of Saturn, an evil, child-sacrificing, demanding old man, carries on in modern society in two more guises. Every December, Saturn, the god of time, reappears as old Father Time, and the child victim is Baby New Year. The smile behind Father Time's beard makes this seem like innocent fun, symbols that contain no reference to evil, just a fun way to represent the passage of time. Notice that in this modern cartoon of Old Father Time with Baby New Year, all of the characteristics of Saturn are in place. The scythe, the watch as a symbol of time, and the child victim.
A far more chilling representation of Father Time with Baby New Year can be found in this illustration from the 19th century. Father Time, Saturn, as the god of time, is standing in front of a large clock, holding his scythe. The old years, 1886 through 1888, are passing away as full-grown bodies wrapped in burial shrouds. The new year, 1889, is coming in as a young child. While the picture is quite dark, light from the fire is lighting the little boy, while on either side are swirls of smoke from the burning fire at his feet, below the view of the picture. Notice that the new years still to come, 1890 to 1891, are portrayed as a child sacrifice victims, all of whom are heavily veiled. All of the grotesque elements of this hideous god are contained in this one, quote, innocent, end quote, illustration. The other way in which Saturn's imagery exists in modern society is as the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper is typically seen only around Halloween. He is widely understood as a symbol of death itself. Very few, if any, in modern society have recognized in either the Grim Reaper or Old Father Time the pagan connection to the cruelest, most evil of all the gods, Saturn. However, an ancient person would immediately recognize both as being none other than Saturn, because the emblems which identified Saturn are the same which identify Old Father Time and the Grim Reaper. Sights, and something to mark the passage of time. The Grim Reaper is another name for Saturn.
Okay, so remember the sun god Baal, and you see a picture of Nimrod here. So Nimrod is Baal, and Baal is Saturn. And so the legends in Nimrod that the mighty hunter passed to all the world, each civilization named Nimrod as their own god. So Saturn is Baal. The Phoenicians, Carthaginians, and Canaanites referred to Saturn as Baal. Nimrod was Saturn to the Romans, and Rome itself was originally the city of Saturn. And this is the Temple of Saturn among the ruins of the Roman Forum, Rome. The Romans honored the god Saturn with a week-long festival in December called Saturnalia, December 17 to 24. So from Britannica to Saturnalia, the celebration of Christmas and the Western world's New Year.
The word, quote, Saturday, end quote, means Saturn's day, or the day belonging to the god Saturn. Naming Saturday. Quote, Saturday is named after the Roman god and planet Saturn. Saturday is the only day of the week that retained its Roman origin in English, end quote. And that comes from timeanddate.com under their calendar days for Saturday studies. So, it comes from the weekday Saturn was named for Saturn with Britannica.com.
Okay, thank you. Yes. So how did we get Saturday on our modern calendar? Due to Constantine's Sunday law, issued in AD 321, the Jews were forced to completely abandon the Creator's calendar. To help the Jews adapt to Rome's new weekly cycle, Saturn, or Saturday, was moved to the seventh day of the week. Constantine's planetary calendar placed Sunday as an exalted day of worship and was placed as the first day of the week. So Saturn was moved to the seventh day of the week. And here's a little illustration of it I have over here where you will see that Saturn was originally day 1 and Sunday was day 2. But I moved it so that you could see that Constantine put Saturn as day 7 so that the Jews would have a 7th day to worship on. Okay, so some of this that we're talking about today is about Kronos and about who is the god of time. Well, we want to know when is the new year. Right now, people around us in the world are celebrating New Year as January 1. But when is the new year? It's Saturn's great festival, the Saturnalia, and it became the celebration of Christmas and New Year. New Year's celebrations, the earliest recorded festivities in honor of a New Year's arrival date back some 4,000 years to ancient Babylon.
As part of his calendar reform in 46 BC, Julius Caesar instituted January 1st as the first day of the year, partly to honor the month's namesake, Janus, the Roman god of beginnings, whose two faces allowed him to look back into the past and forward into the future.
And So when is New Year? When does a year begin? In the winter or in the spring? In the earliest days of the church, the 1st and 2nd centuries after Messiah, there was no such celebrations as Christmas and New Year's Day. And here's a quote from the Catholic Encyclopedia.
The New Catholic Encyclopedia, 1960 Cellium, Volume 3, page 656. Because on this day, as the sun began to return to northern skies, the pagan devotees of Mithra celebrated Dies Natali Soli Invicti, birthday of the invincible sun. Those customs carried over in the observance of Christmas, with its many traditions and practices steeped in paganism, and the, quote, birth, end quote, and of the, quote, new year, end quote, of the sun. That is why the Roman calendar in use today designates January 1st as the beginnings of the new year, as opposed to Yahweh's designation of the spring month of Aviv, or Nisan, on the Hebrew calendar as the beginning of the year. That's in Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 through 2.
Okay, so, and here is that verse, Exodus 12, 1 to 2. And Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month shall be for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year for you. So when does a year begin? In the spring, Abib, at the time of Passover, at the time that the Exodus happened, not in the winter. So biblical New Year is in the spring.
From his fall, Lucifer has desired worship. All the elements of time have been changed with a single motive, worship. And here we have a quote from Isaiah chapter 14, verses 13 through 14. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation, on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the highest of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
So Satan has changed every element of time. When a year begins, when a month begins, when a week begins, and when a day begins. And we have videos about all of those topics for you to study out. So again, he shall think to change times and laws. That's Daniel 7:25. So who is the world honoring on January 1st? The false gods, Nimrod, Baal, Janus, Saturn. So an ancient proverb claimed, he who controls the calendar controls the world. So who controls you? And Psalms 89:37 says, it will be established forever, like the moon, the faithful witness in the sky. And that's the calendar in the heavens. It's not on a Roman Gregorian calendar. So it's nature's testimony in the heavens. In Psalms 19:2-4 say, day unto day utter speech, and night unto night shows knowledge. So if you want to access more information about when a year begins, or when a month begins, or a day, or anything about the Creator's calendar, and to come away from the thinking about pagan gods and pagan calendars, please go to our website, lunarsabbathday.com. And please like if this is a blessing to you, and share it with your friends that love Yeshua.